All right. Hi, this is Roxann, your instructor, also known as Rock. And so first of all, hopefully you've had a chance to watch my video of introduction to myself that's found in the introductory video, introductory module. But this video is going to go over kind of a quick overview of how the course is laid out, and then also on the requirements for your first module with assignments that are due on July 10th. So the first thing that you should notice when you go to the home button of your Canvas course is that over here on the right are some to-do items, and that's always a good place to look at. I can see right now that I've already, at the top just a moment ago, there was an announcement, and then when I clicked on that, I was able to read the announcement, and then it still showed there, and I didn't want it to show anymore because I'd already looked at it. So then I used the X button to get rid of it. Typically, once you complete the assignment, it will disappear from your to-do list. But if it doesn't, then just hit the X button once you're for sure know that you have it done. And then that's kind of a feeling of satisfaction to kind of see that to-do list get smaller. But a great way to look at your assignments that are due is to look at it through the module view. And so when you click on the module button, you'll see that there's the introductory module, and then you'll see that there's module number 1. I can close that up so that it kind of so there's the closing, and then there's the open just by clicking that little triangle. But so that way I can actually look and I can see right here, I need to close up module number 5, module number 6, module number 7, and extra credit. Okay, so now we can see this quick view of how the course is laid out, to where we have the introductory module, then we have module number 1 that's due on July 10th. A week later, module number 2, a week later after that, module number 3, the next Friday, module number 4, etc., all the way till the end of the quarter. So every Friday you have a different module due. And then there's also extra credit that is due by the last Friday of our class. So, for the introductory module, you are introducing yourself by this Friday, and then you're just looking through these other things here. And you're getting a sense of the class and such. If you have any questions, go to the inbox and post a question for me. Okay, so make sure that you do click on the syllabus. Make sure that you do print the syllabus out. It's a nice reference. I would go to page number 2, and you'll see that it lays out the different modules and kind of tells you what's due. So you can see the introductory module, introduce yourself by July 3rd. Be sure to point out your course syllabus and print out the course syllabus and use that to guide your work this quarter. Module 1 has 5 discussion boards and a quiz. It lets you know that that's worth 14.3% of your grade. Now, if you actually do the percentages, that may not actually be spot on, because in the course grading, I have down that the course is worth 240 points. But actually, if you add up all the points, they actually add up to 245. So in a sense, you almost have like extra credit built in if you get all of the assignments done. So, but what that does do is, because we have lots of discussion boards that are worth 5 points each, if you ended up missing one of the 5-point discussion boards, you could still actually get 100% in the class. So that kind of just gives you a little bit of buffer there. Okay. So let's take a look at our very first module and what you need to do to complete that. So I opened that up, and it says read this first, module number 1 overview, and that's basically going to be what I'm going to go over with you right now. So what I want you to notice is that there's discussion board 1A and then discussion board 1B. Now, underneath 1A, you'll notice that this is watch this video, and then also there's an option that has the same thing but with closed captions. Notice how those are indented a little bit. That means that these go with that. So to complete this assignment, you're going to need to watch these. And since this one is the one with closed captions and this is the one without, you're just watching just one of those. Then for discussion board 1B, so here's the discussion board, here's where you do the assignment, but then right down here, these are the actual videos that you'll watch. And so underneath each video, I also have the transcript. Most of you will probably not opt to look at the transcript, but it is there in case you need to refer to that. So, so those are available. Then you see there's discussion board 1C, and you'll see underneath that, kind of indented, are the things that you need to view or read to complete discussion board 1C. And then discussion board 1D, same thing. And that one's going to look really long, but I'm going to explain that to you here in a second, that you don't actually have to watch all of those. You get to choose. And then discussion board 1E, there's just one reading for that. The last assignment for the first module is just a 10-question true-false quiz. And so there is some information about that you'll read to complete, to be ready to do the quiz underneath that. And then if you are curious about any of the materials, there's details about that at the bottom of each module. So to complete this assignment, the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to watch the video. And so I would first of all read the directions for discussion board 1A. So it says here, watch the lecture 1 video. Then after you complete the readings and video watchings for the other assignments due this week, return back to this discussion board and give one example of preventative, one example of supportive, and one example of corrective discipline from your reading or viewing. This will make sense after you view the lecture video. So, to kind of clarify that, you're going to watch that initial, you're going to watch the lecture. So here it says, watch this video, lecture 1, positive guidance techniques. You're going to watch that, and it's going to tell you about preventative, supportive, and corrective discipline. And I'm going to provide some examples for you in that lecture as well. Then what I want you to do is I want you to apply those ideas. So as you're completing your other assignments and watching videos for 1B, for 1C, for 1D, for 1E, and even for doing the quiz for 1F, you're going to be reading about a whole bunch of different kinds of ways to interact with kids. And so you're going to just pick one of those examples and say, oh, this was an example of preventative discipline. And somewhere else you're going to say, oh, and then I saw supportive discipline here. And then I saw corrective discipline here. So you're just going to, as you're doing those assignments, you're going to be thinking back to that first assignment, and you're just going to be coming up with an example for each of that. So it's just a way to show that you understand the difference between preventative, supportive, and corrective discipline, and that you're able to identify those. It's also just a way to kind of connect all of our learning together. So that very first one, you'll watch the video, but don't even do the discussion board yet. Save that till the end. You're then going to move on to discussion board 1B. And discussion board 1B says, watch the 5 assigned videos related to this discussion board. List at least 10 pieces of advice for early childhood educators based on these videos. Make sure you reference each video at least once. Then identify the main idea that each of these 5 videos emphasizes. And then it says, if you're not interested in early childhood education, there are many ideas communicated through these videos that could be applied to older age groups as well. So then it goes on to give some examples. So sometimes we are going to, I'm working with a variety of you that some of you are more interested in early childhood education, some more interested in working with older kids. And so sometimes we will have some things that are kind of toddler based, but there certainly are ideas that are transferable, and then vice versa as well, that when we look at some things that deal with older kids, to always be looking for how you can relate that. So when you are doing a discussion board for any of the discussion boards, to get full points, you need to make sure you post an answer that thoroughly addresses all questions listed in the discussion board prompt. Details are important, so don't be too brief. Give at least one thoughtful and detailed reply to a peer's posting. And then make sure you participate on at least 2 separate dates for each discussion board. So that means for this discussion board, I might post my answer on one date and reply to a peer on the second date. Now remember that you're going to give at least one thoughtful and detailed reply to a peer's posting. So you certainly could reply to more than one peer. But if you post and you reply to peers all on the same date, you will not get full points. The reason for that is that our discussion board tends to be richer and more valuable for you as a learner if it's something that you return to at least 2 different dates during the week. If it's just kind of get the work done and leave it, it tends not to be as valuable. So I'm hoping that you're reading other people's replies, and it's great if you can reply to even more than one person. But the minimum is to reply just to one. And make sure this gets done by midnight of the due date. And then also remember that discussion board does disappear. It says any participation after that date is okay, but it won't count for points. Actually, the way I have it set it up now, I don't even think you even can add it even if you wanted to. I've kind of taken that option off recently. Okay, so it says the 5 videos that I'm supposed to watch. So if you go back to module number 1 and you went here to what we just read in discussion board 1B, then here's online video link number 1, and then link number 2, link number 3, link number 4, link number 5. And so you can see that these are all pretty short little videos. And then there's a transcript there if you want to use it. You probably aren't even going to want to use that, but it is there in case you need it. So then I would watch those, and then remember I'm going to be looking for I'm going to be deciding on 10 pieces of advice for early childhood educators. And make sure you reference each video. So you could say, so from video number 1, from video number 2. And so just make sure that I want it to be to where you're not just taking the 10 pieces of advice all from one video. I want you to be spreading those out. Okay. And then I gave...
Get some good rest.
Okay, this is embarrassing.
Pleasant dreams.
That is my Alexis telling me it's time to go to bed. Okay, so then what else for module number 1? So the other thing with module number 1, then you're going to be doing kind of for discussion board 1C, you're going to be doing something very similar. 5 videos, 10 pieces of advice, same thing. And then for discussion board 1D, so we talked about 1B, 1C. So for 1D, it says social and emotional support. So for that one, this is the one to where you're going to get to choose. It says watch at least one of these video sets. Watch the entire set, not just one video related to the discussion board. So you could choose these videos because they focus on early childhood education. Or you could choose these videos because they focus on preschool and kindergarten. Or you could choose these videos and they focus on elementary education. Or you could choose these videos and they focus on middle school. So you'll see that the early childhood takes up about 31 minutes and the preschool kindergarten takes about 32. And then the elementary education takes 37. And then the adolescence has 19 minutes of video, and then there's a 22-minute podcast that you could also listen to. So, and then there's 3 reading assignments related to this discussion board. They're pretty quick readings. And then to show your understanding of what you have learned, list at least 10 pieces of advice. So it's going to be the same thing. And again, you're going to give references. But keep in mind, there are 21 videos listed, but you are not going to watch all 21 videos. You're going to decide which age group do you want to do there. So make sure that you're really careful with that. Otherwise, you're going to end up doing a lot of extra work. And so this way you're able to kind of pick that age group that you're interested in. So again, that long list of videos looks very intimidating, but actually you're not watching all of them. Okay. And now let's go ahead and talk about just the final two assignments. Okay, so then for discussion board 1E, it says that read through the 20 tips for being proactive with behavior management. First, pick your favorite tip. Explain why you think this tip is a good one. Second, pick one that you either disagree with or one that you have a question about. And then at each one of those, it says to kind of give some details about that. And then third, if someone asked you to give them the main idea of this article, what would you say? So in other words, what do all of these tips have in common? So remember, for every single one of the discussion boards that we've looked at, that you're going to post an answer that thoroughly addresses the questions. And remember, don't be too brief. Do give some details. Give at least one thoughtful and detailed reply. So you're not going to say things like, me too, ditto, I agree. So if it is a me too, then go on to explain that. Me too, I've had that happen when I work with children, and here's what I have found to be useful. You know, something like that. Participate on at least 2 separate dates. So remember, don't do your posting and your reply on the same date, or if you do, that's okay, but then come back a second day and do another reply. And remember that it's at least one thoughtful and detailed reply, but it's lovely if you can do more. And then it's at least 2 separate dates for each discussion board, but remember, you can always participate more than that. Remember that you need to complete them by midnight of the due date. I am going to let you know that I actually do set it for 2 a.m. to disappear, so that if anybody's in the middle of like typing something out, if you're right at midnight, don't stress, it's not going to disappear at midnight. It's going to disappear at 2 o'clock in the morning after the due date. So you're going to have 2 extra hours after that. So that's just a little FYI, but really technically you should just think about how it is due that way. Now, I'm not going to count that as 2 separate dates if you do a posting at 11:59 and then you do some replies at 12:15. I mean, that really technically is still really, I mean, I guess you could say technically it's not, but that's not really the spirit of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to make it to where people like actually have time to read what you've posted, and then you have time to reply and that kind of a thing, trying to get like a real conversation going in a discussion board. Okay, so then after you complete 1E, then you can do the final task. Well, actually, it won't be the final, because remember, we're going to still go back to number 1, to the very first one, I guess I should say 1A. But at the bottom of module number 1 is the Pioneers in Behavior Management quiz. You're going to have 2 readings. One of them isn't showing here right now, but I will fix that. You're going to have a reading on Pioneers in Behavior Management, and then there will be one that's showing there that's for William Glasser as well. And then once you've done that reading, you can open up the quiz. The quiz is just 10 questions, true, false. You can certainly print these out, and then actually you could read the questions and refer to the text, as you're reading those. There's no timing on the quiz. You can take as long as you want. And then once you submit your answers, it will tell you what your score is. If you did not receive the full 10 points, you won't know which one you missed, but you will know, like if you get 8 out of 10 points, you'll know that you missed 2. So then you get a chance to take the quiz again. And then it will, after you submit it the second time, it will then tell you what the correct answers were. There's no risk with taking the quiz the second time, because your highest quiz score will be the one that is recorded. So if you happen to do worse the second time, that will not count against you. But it kind of just gives you a chance to fix if you made an error. So let's see. So then after you've completed that, you're then going to go back to 1A. And remember, you'd already watched that video, and the video explains the difference between preventative, supportive, and corrective discipline.
So, but today for our lecture, what we're going to focus on is we're going to focus on 3 different types of discipline.
So you can see there. So you're going to be learning about those 3 different types of discipline. So after you have already learned about that, because remember, that's the very first thing that you're doing in the first module, but then you're not participating in the discussion board at first because you're going through and you're doing all the other discussion boards. But as you're doing those and as you're watching those videos, you're thinking, oh, I got to find an example of preventative discipline. I have to find an example of supportive. I have to find an example of corrective, because I'm going to go back to that first discussion board and I'm going to post that. So I have an example here of how I would do that. So with this one in the Pioneers of Behavior Management, which goes with the quiz, Jacob Coonan recommends that teachers have a way of getting student attention. I think this is an example of supportive discipline because it's a technique to use when things are going well and you want things to keep going well, but you need the kids' attention for further instructions. One way I know that teachers do this is to flicker the lights or to play a xylophone or a wind chime to get students' attention. So this example shows 1/3 of the expectation, because remember, you're also going to come up with an example of preventative and also corrective. So you're not going to choose this exact same example, but it gives you an idea. Notice that this isn't like a great big long paper, but it also wasn't just in the Pioneers of Behavior Management reading we did. Jacob Coonan recommends that teachers have a way of getting student attention. This is an example of supportive discipline. No. I went on to talk about why it's an example of supportive discipline. And then I even thought about like, oh, here's some ways that I've seen that done in classrooms. And even if you don't have a lot of experience working with kids, you can probably even think back in your own education and go, oh yeah, I remember I used to have some teachers that flickered the lights. So this is not like a huge long answer, but it definitely is, it's got some details, it relates to the prompt, and it's thorough. So that's the kind of answers that we're looking for. So you're going to end up doing that. And then you're going to be done with everything for module number 1. So again, module number 1, you're going to look for those discussion boards. Underneath, kind of indented, are going to be the things you either need to read or the things you need to watch. Keep in mind that the transcripts go along with the video above and that those are there for people to where that's helpful for them to have a transcript, but that is not something that you're required to look at. And then there's the quiz. And so you're going to want to start with watching that very first lecture, but then you're going to say, nope, I'm not going to work on 1A now because I have to go through all of the other things. And as I'm doing that, I'm looking for those 3 examples. And after you watch the video, it'll be more clear to you. So if you happen to finish before the due date on July 10th, you can certainly get started on module number 2. And I think that now that you've completed module number 1, it'll kind of make sense to you how this is laid out. But each week I will post a quick little video that will give a description of what's due the next week. And so you can be looking for that to actually come out even before module number 1 is finished. So if some of you are wanting to work ahead of schedule, you certainly can. So you can work as far ahead of schedule as you want to. The one thing that can be a challenge working ahead is that if other people aren't working ahead, then you may not have anybody to reply to. And so if you are leaving for, like, let's say a week vacation or something like that, and you're in kind of a tough situation to where you've done all of your postings, but you're leaving and nobody else has posted, there's nothing for you to reply to, then you should contact me and we'll figure something out, because I'll see that, gosh, you put in that effort, you're trying to work ahead, but just nobody else is working ahead that week. And so that kind of puts you in a bind. So we can figure out something about that, but just stay in communication with me. Remember, you can do that via the inbox. So that is pretty much it. And we'll see you online here soon.